I'm sorry, I'm not sure what university you did say this specifically at, but you did state that you believe that the Holocaust was not as bad as abortion. So in other words, you believe that abortion is worse than the Holocaust.
So they're both distinct evils,
of course,
with some similarities. The Holocaust in some ways was far more evil,
okay,
but as far as magnitude, the abortion crime is more evil, and I can just explain more if you'd like.
Okay, sure. So I did do some research. It is found that 1973 Roe v. Wade was ratified, correct? And so one thing that you did fail to mention was that specifically numbers are just larger because abortion has been going on for a longer amount of time. If the mass genocide, right, that the Holocaust was, would have continued, it was about 6 million killed per year. That would have progressed to 12 million. That would have progressed to 18 million. But it was ended because, again, it's a totalitarian form of mass genocide. And so I wanted to ask you, when you look at the 93% of women who do get abortions, it's 58,590,000 that get abortions the first trimester, correct? And there is suggestive data that states that 12 weeks, of gestation, there's significant data that has said that pain receptors may not have yet been developed. And so that would mean that outside of the women who received abortions first trimester, it would be 88,200 per year after the first trimester that the babies are likely experiencing pain. I will admit to that. However, I am pretty sure that every single person in the Holocaust, which would have been 2 million per year, as far as the people who could feel pain, did feel that pain. And so I would like to ask you, actually I think I would just like to tell you, I think that 2 million actual people, kids, grown people, people who are starved, worked to death, I think that is more significant than the 88,200 life forms, if you will. Because, again, 58,590,000 of them are probably not feeling any pain.
Okay, yeah, but a human life is a human life, regardless of how advanced it is or whether it can feel pain. It still has moral worth.
Right, but I found it interesting. You said it's worse, so I think
so it's worse in numbers.
Okay.
The Holocaust was worse for 2 other different reasons.
Sure, go ahead.
It actually eliminated
Jewish population.
Absolutely.
Nearly half of all living Jews were basically vaporized. And secondly, there was an intent and an evil of trying to eradicate an entire religious people.
Yeah.
That is not unparalleled, but we've only seen that happen 4 or 5 times in history. But just to reiterate the point, maybe you could tell me, a 4-week-old baby who may or may not feel pain. Let me take your argument and say the 4-week-old baby cannot feel pain.
A 4-week-old baby that's outside of the womb or in the utero.
In utero.
Okay, understood.
So what is the moral difference of that 4-week-old baby versus you?
Versus me?
Yeah, why do you matter more than that 4-week-old baby?
Because I have past experience. I also have future experiences. That baby, while it has future experiences, nope, shut up. Nope, you are incorrect. That baby does not have any past experiences. And therefore, I believe that, yeah, I've probably affected and impacted more people in both a positive and a negative way than that 4-week-old uterus has. I'm sorry, not uterus, embryo.
Yeah, so just to make sure I'm clear,
Yeah.
that your moral worldview is that people gain more value the older they get?
Not necessarily the older they get. I would say that people gain more value.
Well, no, you said that based on what they've done. So, like an 82-year-old has more moral value than an 8-year-old. In fact, usually,
no, because it depends.
Just to interrupt, the West actually was built on the opposite idea that we sacrifice the old for the young. But during COVID, we sacrificed the young for the old, and we actually inverted it. It used to be that the grandparents would fall on the sword so that kids could live longer lives. So I'm just trying to understand, and from where do you get that moral worldview? Why do you believe that?
Well, I wouldn't even say that what I'm arguing is that it's based off of how many people you know. What I'm saying is, realistically, if you are walking around, right, and you have a 4-week-old uterus, I'm so sorry, I keep saying uterus.
A baby in utero.
Or embryo, okay, in your stomach. And then you have, just take a 4-year-old kid, all right? There are more people who most likely know that 4-year-old kid. That 4-year-old kid has the ability to understand fear, the fact that its life is in danger, and so therefore there's probably more reason, right, to not terminate the life of that 4-year-old rather than the life of the 4-week-old.
So there's so much wrong with that argument.
Okay.
So under that belief system,
Sure.
if by government decree they said let's eliminate the Down syndrome kids,
Do Down syndrome people still have the ability to feel pain, recognize fear,
some,
recognize
but
sadness?
but it's highly diminished. But just this is not a hypothetical
exactly.
actually.
Okay.
It's actually you must get an abortion in Iceland if you have a Down syndrome baby. You must.
Yeah, that's really terrible.
Okay, we agree.
Yeah.
Right, but why is it terrible? The abortion, it doesn't matter that much, right? It's just like a clump of cells. Like, why not just...
If it is going to directly impact either the mother's life or the baby's life, then yes, I do think that abortion is an important issue. I don't think the government should ever be able to come in and say, hey, you're required to have an abortion. In fact, the whole slogan for the pro-choice movement is your body, your choice. And I know you're going to disagree with that, but that is the whole point. So what it's saying is it's not left up to the government to decide if they should or shouldn't get an abortion. In Iceland, yeah, that's a problem because it's entirely left up to the government.
But
that's an issue.
Let me take it to another extreme, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because this is full freedom, right? So you're saying, hey, my body, my choice.
I'm actually saying for the first trimester. After that,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's just say this is a different moral argument that I'm interested to have you play around with.
Okay.
Should it be legal if a mom finds out she's having a girl,
Okay.
but she wants a boy? Should she be able to abort that 3-week-old?
Yes.
Think about it. Think about what you just said. Think about what you just said.
Why?
Can that child directly survive outside her body?
Well, eventually, yes. I mean, again, so we talk about stages of development. What is the first step of human development?
I mean, obviously, it's whenever the two pieces of DNA,
The egg and the sperm
Correct,
meet,
yes,
right?
and then they collaborate,
So
and there you
therefore,
go.
if human development begins at fertilization, conception,
Sure.
so then shouldn't the human be protected at conception?
Well, I don't even think it's going to be protected if the baby is going to be born to a mother who's like, well, dang it, my kid's not a girl, it's a boy, or vice versa, then I don't even think they should be born to that parent in the first place. So,
But just to
Sure.
understand, so what you are arguing for is eugenics. Just so we are clear, it is not just illegal. It is grotesquely illegal what you are talking about, which is sex-selective abortion, basically where you get a DNA result at 3 weeks, and you could be like, nope, not the hair color I like, terminate it. I wanted a boy. So basically, your view of pregnancy is no different than customizing a Ford Explorer.
no, my whole point, again,
No,
is that
you got to emphasize on it. Your
Okay,
view
I was
is that
going to.
the baby, if all of a sudden you get a blood test that you don't like, that it's, by the way, you could tell a lot of your baby's DNA test now. How tall it's going to be, its average IQ, brown eyes, green eyes, blue eyes, whether it's going to be likely overweight, obese, whether or not it's going to be a boy or a girl. So if you get anything that you don't like, you say, my body, my choice, get it out of the shopping cart.
Well, yeah, and to be honest, it's very ethically problematic, yeah. But if we have advanced to a society where that can happen, number one,
Yes, no,
we're
I mean,
already
you get
we're
blood
already
tests.
in pretty big trouble if we can literally say, okay, the baby's gonna have blue eyes, green eyes.
No, it's not. We're already there. We're there. So it's just so you understand. It's
I
already.
mean, you can look at a Punnett table, but it's not actually going to be actually defined.
No, it's very defined. You could get a 3-week-old blood test, and you could tell right around 3 to 6 weeks almost everything with a very, very high predictive correlation of how your kid is going to operate, grow. Now, of course, there are some issues with it, but the sex is highly, highly accurate. You take the urine of the mom within 48 hours, you could tell. So, what I want to make sure we're clear. You came here asking about the Holocaust. I'm going to complete the full circle. What you just talked about, sex-selective abortion, is Nazi eugenics philosophy, which is that we will eliminate those that we don't want.
Interesting. You're exactly right. You did get me on that one. Yeah, because I'm not gonna sit up here and pretend that you got me on that one. No, realistically, if we're really gonna full circle and I'm gonna sit here and think about it, no, you shouldn't be able to kill your baby just because you don't like the gender or whatever.
Fair enough.
Listen, and I apologize for taking it to that extent.
No, it's not your extent.
But hold on.
I want to offer you
Well,
grace. Thank you for saying that,
You're
and I
welcome.
appreciate
But,
that.
Okay. But I want to say, as far as like if we are balancing the numbers, I think that the amount of lives that were terminated I think they are more significant as far as the Holocaust, because every single person did absolutely have the ability to feel pain than they were whenever it was the 58 million.
Fair enough. So here's our view, and we'll close with this.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that if there is a 3-year-old in the audience that has very few friends and might be living on some homestead, or a 30-year-old that's very connected and very wealthy, in the moral worldview economy that we have, no moral difference. If there's
because they're like directly living like outside of their mother's womb, whereas if you have a fetus,
let me go a step further.
Okay,
if there's a 3-week-old in utero,
I mean, it's still leeching off of the mother's resources, so I'm not sure entirely how much of its own being it is.
Well, again, so you leech for the first 3 years of life. I have a 10-month-old. He doesn't hunt and gather. He doesn't go work.
But he's not directly attached to your, I assume, to your wife's body.
In order for his survival, he has to be directly attached to something. Somebody has to give the baby breast milk formula, or
formula. Yeah, but can it
or something?
Okay, so here's your wife. Here's the baby. Can the baby just be apart from your wife and exist like that?
At 22 weeks, yes. So for 22 weeks,
so
there
again,
is an umbilical cord. So what you say leech, I say give. The mom gives life.
We're using whiteboards every day to transform the way we bring videos to life. As a fully remote agency, whiteboards let us collaborate in real time, turn our clients' ideas into a gripping title and thumbnail, a captivating script, and finally, a viral sensation.
To the baby.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not arguing outside of first trimester.
And
so
what
I
we
agree
say,
with you there.
and not even a religious standpoint, because the religious is easy. Just from a moral standpoint, we were all given life by a mom who gave us nutrients through an umbilical cord, and we should give that back. That is just the moral cycle of life, right? Which is that which is given, that which is much expected. And so, again, human development, irrefutably, even a pro-abort will say this. Human development has a starting point.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yes, we agree. And it's conception. And we can use all these different words. We can use fetus, we can use embryo, we can use little one, whatever.
Sure.
But it's all still a human being. It doesn't go from rhinoceros to human being at like 10 weeks. It doesn't go from crocodile to human being. It's all human development. Therefore, using reason that we all have, if it's human development and it is a human being, human rights. The first of all human rights is the protection of life.
Interesting. But, okay, so do you agree that, like, let's say you go into a doctor's office, you have a 10-year-old, and then you have a 22-year-old. The 22-year-old is going to be allowed to submit to more testing as long without parental consent than that 10-year-old or whoever I said was. So, I don't know. I think, honestly, it's, again, and I don't know, like,
You have a lot of thinking to do about this, and that's okay. Because and this is not your fault, the pro-abortion worldview will collapse if you remove feelings and you remove hyper-emotionality. There is no defense using agreed-upon Western reason, which you believe in, and Western morality, which is we don't kill people smaller than us. We do not eradicate those that are, just because they don't have as much money or as much worth. We believe in universal human equality, which, of course, you believe in, right? Universal human equality is like the overarching big Western ideal, and by the way, it's in our Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. If you believe in universal human equality, there is no room for abortion in that society. It does not exist.
Well, I mean, okay, we can say that.
No, I'm just saying, it's fine. You have a lot to think about with that.
But then we're going to, I think you do too, but okay.
I'm happy to. No, it's fine. I mean, I've thought about this my whole life. So thank you for your time.
I'm thinking myself. Listen, I appreciate you, Charlie. Again, I want to apologize about what I said earlier about
That's fine.
About that comment.
When we cut the video, we'll put your second answer as well as your first one. We'll be fair to that, okay? Thank you very much.
Sure you will. All right.
No, I will. I'll just be honest. Thank you. Mr. Simple, you've said some very nasty things about me online, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. Simple question, Simple Black Theory. What do you think about blind hiring? Are you for blind hiring?
No.
No. So why not? Because blind hiring, for those you don't know, is based on merit, where you don't
look. No, it's not.
So what's blind hiring?
Blind hiring would be that you do not put the race actually when you submit for, you don't even see the person when you interview them for a job.
No. That's one part of blind hiring. There's multiple ways to do blind hiring. But at the end of the day, blind hiring is exactly not knowing the person's race, age, or gender. That's based on merit. Like you said, you want merit, correct?
Well, hold on. Those things can factor into merit as well. For example, if I'm trying to hire for an Amazon warehouse worker, and all of a sudden I find out that they're at 69 with 1 year left from retirement and the age is not disclosed, wouldn't I prefer to have a 24-year-old man than a 69-year-old woman who's overweight?
You're moving the goalposts. Let's bring it back here.
No, I'm
the
not.
whole point was about blind hiring.
No,
right?
you said race, sex, and age is not incorporated.
Correct.
I think you should have a full picture of a human being is when you hire them.
So you care about diversity?
No, actually, I don't.
Why? Because that's basically merit. You're focusing solely on merit. You said you want meritocracy.
No. Just to be clear, if diversity happens naturally through meritocracy, great. If all of a sudden we have people
DEI.
that, well, no, it's not. DEI is by force.
So let me explain that.
No.
Go ahead.
I got to interject.
Go ahead.
DEI is that we are going to forcibly make an institution more colorful.
Right.
We're going to forcibly make an institution more black. Where if all of a sudden, if half of Texas A&M was black because it was all on merit, praise God, that's an amazing thing. It doesn't matter. If all of a sudden, for example, if the NBA is 75% black because it's on merit, great. Terrific. If the NFL is half black because on merit, we don't want to force race. We want excellence and meritocracy over race in every possible circumstance.
Right, yeah, my turn. Okay, so let's get into the NBA, for instance, right? Can we both agree at one point black people weren't allowed into the NBA, and then they allowed them to be in the NBA? Wouldn't that be considered diversity? Wouldn't that be DEI in itself?
No. It's actually the opposite. You see, you're mistaken, my friend. It's actually, we're getting rid of any racial stereotyping. What happened was actually a form. No, DEI is racial stereotyping. So what actually was before was a form of white preference DEI, which is white supremacy or whatever. And then we got rid of it. We said, we're not going to discriminate it. And the quality of play got better. Do you guys see the difference between the two? You see, it's very important. Well, no, actually, I'm talking to both you and the crowd, right? I'm talking to both, right? So what ended up, what you want is you actually want to bring back a form of how Major League Baseball and the NBA used to work before we desegregated.
So we can agree that Executive Order 11246 is what basically brought in DEI, correct?
I think that might be it. Is that the affirmative action one? I don't know.
No, it's not the affirmative action. It's for DEI. So within that executive order, where does it say that they're solely focused on making people get into jobs? For instance, like United Airlines, right? You mentioned that, well, let's pause that. I'm going to get to here. So for an example of DEI is basically your daughter, right? She decides to get a job, right? And unfortunately, it's that time of the month. She goes into the bathroom. Calm down. She goes into the bathroom. Stop. She's going into the bathroom.
You're losing the audience, man.
I don't care. I'm talking to you. So she goes into the bathroom, right? And she goes into the bathroom and gets a tampon or a pad that's been given from the job. That is DEI. That is literally, yes. Yeah. You don't know. That's great. So if you don't know, DEI, interrupt me so he can win. Go ahead. You want to do that, right? Or be quiet and we can talk. Thank you. So, right. Can I continue? Thank you. So, my thing is dead. All right, so, yes, because in Executive Order 11246, they say that DEI is focusing on a safer environment and a more equitable environment within the workplace and the hiring process. Let's look at Google. Google actually does DEI. You know how they do DEI? Give me an example of, do you know Google's DEI? I'm pretty sure you don't.
And they shouldn't, of course not.
What is their DEI initiative?
I actually don't know the specifics because I don't know every company's specifics. However, let me ask you a question. When you're hiring somebody, would you rather hire someone that's black or someone that there is excellent?
So that's what we're talking about. That's not what DEI is.
Actually, it is. So let me prove it to you. As I said, according to the Student for Fair Admission Supreme Court case, black students were able to get into Harvard with
affirmative action, not DEI.
Affirmative action. Time out.
You're bringing old shit.
Time out. You're getting too worked up here, man. Okay. Time out. Affirmative action is DEI in practice. You see, DEI is a theory.
Wasn't it struck down by Supreme Court?
Yes, and they still ignore it.
So why are you bringing it up?
Because they're still ignoring it, my friend.
So let's focus on my question I asked you.
Hold on. Let's get back to the core macro tenet, which I think is very important.
Correct.
Which is, wouldn't you prefer a country built on excellence and merit,
not
one
DEI does.
based on forced pigmentation diversity? Why does somebody's skin color matter? No, tell me, what differences do you as a black man and me as a white man have, and why does it matter?
Okay, so
why does it matter?
So let's look at, because again, you don't understand what DEI is, and you're trying to put it into one stance, which is not. So, thank you. So back to this question. So an executive order, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't know executive order 11246, correct? So
I mean, I have an idea of what President Trump signed, correct? But because he got rid of that executive order.
Right. And in that executive order, it says, literally, y'all can Google it too. It says that DEI focuses on both the workplace and hiring.
Oh,
now,
got it. So does it
now
focus on diversity?
Now let me explain a
Does
DEI
it have the word
initiative.
diversity?
Yes, but
We should not have any forced diversity, period. End of story.
It's not forced diversity. It does not say forced diversity,
What does
and
it
I'll
say?
put money on that too.
But does it say diversity?
It says diversity, yes.
Well, then it's forced
but it's
diversity.
not forced diversity.
Then what is it? It's a suggestion?
So, correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm lying. Does it say forced diversity in the executive order?
But it has the word diversity.
Does it say forced diversity in the executive
wait,
order?
hold on, let me get this straight. Executive order with the word diversity.
Can I give you an
Would that
example
not
of DI
be
initiative
forced
then?
diversity?
Let me give you an example of DI initiative so you
okay.
have a better understanding. So let's look at Google, right? Google's one of the hardest companies to actually get into. In fact, I believe there's a 0.2% chance that you actually get the job, right? They actually run a DI initiative. Their DI initiative is called a hiring committee where they have a diverse group of people that have
Terrible
been
idea.
working.
Awful.
How? So you're telling me Google sucks?
Google actually is, honestly.
So y'all using Bing. Y'all using Bing.
Honestly,
Y'all using
ChatGPT's
Bing.
way better than
Stop.
Google recently. I don't know about you guys. No, but honestly, to your point though, Google has lost its competitive edge in a lot of ways the last
How?
10 years. Hold on a second. Again, Google does a lot right, but hold on. Google has lost the social media war. Google tried to launch a Facebook competitor, an Instagram competitor, failed. They tried to also launch a Zoom
Let's
and a Skype
focus on the
competitor.
conversation.
Failed.
That has no proof
Google's
that was
market
DI.
cap. Google's market cap, otherwise known as Alphabet, has actually missed expectations over the last 2 years versus Netflix, Amazon, and Apple and Microsoft. In fact, there was a prediction 10 years ago that Google would be the first $3 trillion company.
Right.
Turns out that it was actually Microsoft that was the first $3 trillion company. Now, of course, Alphabet is a very good company in a lot of different ways, but if your argument right now is like, well, because one of the biggest companies on the planet has embraced a bad idea, what is your argument exactly?
They're still one of the best companies in the world.
Not because of that, because they were built by merit and it's being destroyed by diversity.
And they use DEI to get that merit. Listen, if they're hiring people, yes, it makes sense. If you're doing a hiring process and you have a hiring committee that is DEI and they're hiring the people that's making the company as great as we just said, your argument is that
the point
DEI
is that
takes away merit.
it does.
But if we see that Google is doing well and they're using DEI, how the hell are you saying that DEI is not making merit?
First of all, Google has not had this hiring committee around since its inception.
They have. No, not since its inception, but they had it for a while. And
Secondly,
the people in the committee are people who's been there for a while, which is very diverse.
Secondly, you have not answered this fundamental question, though.
Go ahead.
Which is, can you tell me when an organization gets forcibly more diverse, it gets better?
Eu ouvi greve? E agora? Opa, esqueci que agora não preciso mais me preocupar com isso, porque
Google.
Again, I just proved to you, Google is...
Google!
Okay.
I just gave you Google.
Again.
They use DEI. Not only are they one of the best companies, yeah, I hate that argument. Great.
I mean, again, it's just... They're fine. I'm not going to like totally kind of crap on Google, but like more importantly and more broadly, I do think you have to answer the question,
So I can't.
Why does skin color matter at all in hiring? Answer that question. Why
Great.
does skin color matter?
So, if we look at basketball, because you love talking about that, right? Can we both agree that at one point there was no black athletes, and then what happened? They diversified.
We got rid of forced segregation, which is a form of DEI.
And that diversified the basketball,
because
right?
it was based on merit.
Was it diversified?
Yes, but not by force. No, hold on a second.
Very much.
Hold on, but if your argument is that if you want to make things more merit-based, then let's do it.
It is more merit-based.
Hold on a second.
They made it diversifying. They diversified basketball, bringing black people who are good in it.
Nothing you're saying.
Diverse.
Nothing you're saying is making any sense.
Oh, okay, I bet.
Because what they did.
Of course
is
you don't.
The NBA went to pure merit, pure excellence. Are you good at this? That's all they cared about.
They allowed black people in, right?
Exactly, because prior.
Okay, then.
Hold on. Because you know what they had prior was a form of racial stereotyping. And you want more racial stereotyping. Your worldview is indecipherable from the KKK.
So
what you want, it's indecipherable because you are race obsessed. I am not race obsessed.
No, you are,
talk about the
though.
race.
You
talk
are,
about race
though.
more than the Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Right.
Because
I'm the Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Well, think about it. I said your worldview.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Because you're around talking about race all the time. I'm talking about character. Which of
You
us?
talk about race all the time. You literally said DEI is based on race when it's not.
Because
It's
I'm
DEIA
explaining.
with accessibility.
Man, you're getting
meaning,
really upset.
My bad,
You
you're
should
right,
take
because
a
you
pause.
keep lying. For instance, right? I've been trying to say this. DEI, one part of DEI is literally giving women tampons or pads at work. Oh, yeah, you're laughing because you don't know that.
Giving women tampons is a form of DEI.
Yes, it is. You know why? Let me explain. Yeah, y'all know. I got you. I'm about to explain to you guys. So basically what happens is, the reason why we have DEI is the fact that in a job location, right, they want to hire more people of diverse. So what these initiatives, these goals, these aspirations that they're doing is trying to bring more people in. For instance, like if, what's that store? Trader Joe's, right? They let people sit down while they bring stuff in. They help disability. That's DEI. That helps disabled people get a job at Trader Joe's. But what you're telling me is that we are not allowed to tell people that, for like onboarding. Onboarding in itself is also DEI. When they explain to you sexual harassment, when they do all these things, when they make it more a safer place, that is DEI. And what you're saying is that the workplace shouldn't be safe. What you're saying is that more companies should have discrimination lawsuits.
Let's get back
That's what DEI stops.
Get back.
Discrimination lawsuits.
DEI is racial quotas. End of story.
Give me one racial quota.
United
Give me one.
Airlines.
I Googled that.
So
go ahead.
Oh,
I Googled it.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So
go ahead, continue.
What did United Airlines announce? Because you know what I said about black pilots. What did they announce when it came to pilots? And why should skin color matter when you board an airplane?
So just remind everybody, it's Charlie Kirk's idea. He basically, stop talking. So Charlie Kirk basically.
Ooh, that's very misogynist. That's not very DEI of you.
All right, let me finish cooking. So, right. So, can I finish? So, Charlie Kirk said that they're basically hiring women of color to make 40 or 50%, right? But when you actually look into it, what happens is...
Women and people of color.
Right, women and people of color. What happens is they're creating a program that's allowing women to train and become pilots. If you actually look at the requirements for these programs, it's nothing different than any other program that trains pilots. But you told people that they're just hiring women when that's not true.
First of all, I never said that.
Yes, you did. I did a video on it, guy.
Yes, I know what I said. Secondly, when you hire based on race and not on excellence, you end up compromising the standards of excellence.
They're not hiring based on race,
Allow me to finish without interrupting you.
All right, go ahead,
When you hire based on race and not on excellence, you end up compromising excellence to be able to pursue race. We know this with Harvard, University of California. We know this with major companies. We know this with the government. Exactly. DEI, that is affirmative action is DEI philosophy in practice.
Struck down already. You're bringing old shit that's been struck down.
Allow me to finish my statement. They are actively defying the Supreme Court decision, or they are contorting their policies to try to fit their own DEI agenda. But let me ask you a question. If you were to board a United Airlines...
I didn't get the finish. Go ahead.
If you were to board a flight with United Airlines, would you rather have a pilot that is qualified or one that is diverse? Answer the question.
Wait, that makes no sense. Why is there two different things? How is it different? When you go to American Airlines...
Because in the pursuit of diversity, you sacrifice excellence every time. We know this with Harvard.
Right.
We know this with Yale. We know this with the military.
Right.
Every time,
Right.
every example that we pursue diversity, an institution becomes less excellent.
So
it becomes subpar.
When you go on a plane, do you go to the pilot and ask for their credentials? Or do you believe that the airline did the right thing and hired the right? So you ask
No,
for
I
their
don't.
credentials.
Actually,
you don't.
I'm starting
you don't.
to.
So,
well,
so,
hold on.
so
I
for
start
some
to doubt
reason,
it.
we
That
can
was
have
my
both
statement.
diversity and
That
merit
was my
things.
statement.
Right.
My statement was when you're going to if you're going to go from 4% of the pilots being black to 50% of the pilots to be black, it begs the question: you are going to lower the standards.
So my
you are
question
going
is,
to, you're going to put a square peg through a round hole. You are going to force something that naturally is not happening, and you will all of a sudden be playing a very treacherous and dangerous game when you board a plane. When I get heart surgery or if I board a plane, I don't care about the color of the skin of the person doing it.
Right,
I want excellence and I want meritocracy.
Yes. So, stop talking. Are you talking? So, right, let's get back to because you're talking a lot.
Final point, then I'll get to the next question.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so again, going back to what you said, because like I said earlier ago, you said, and I forgot this is ISU, you basically said that that women are being hired to become pilots, right? Now, first, that's a lie. That's based on a program. Second, correct me if I'm wrong, becoming a pilot is based on skill, correct? It's not based on height. It's not based on physicality. That's not based on nothing. It's based on skill. Meaning
Not
that
always.
if you're being so what is it based on?
Because based on a now public lawsuit with the Department of Transportation in 2016, 2017, air traffic controllers and pilot standards were lowered in pursuit of
Not
diversity
true. I
goals.
looked at that too.
Because of over
They
15.
added more
Let me
shit.
finish. Because of 15 whistleblowers that said the standard of air traffic controllers and pilots were being sacrificed in the pursuit of diversity,
lying
equity,
again.
and inclusion.
You're lying again.
Okay, I mean, people can do their own independent research, and they also.
I've done it, and you're lying. They
okay.
actually made it harder. They add more
Again.
scenarios within the FAA.
Again, everybody
you
here
can Google it. Google it right now.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
Again, the documents bear out exactly. We now have
Yeah, I'm looking at Max.
we have air
Max,
traffic
Max.
controllers after air
Max.
traffic controllers have said in the pursuit of making air traffic controlling more diverse, we have then lowered the quality of air traffic controlling.
So at the end of all this, what you basically told me is that if merit matters, it doesn't matter, because when we mentioned blind hiring, you said you're against that, which is based on merit.
No, time out. They said that they want to prioritize a group above what is meritocratic.
That didn't say that.
That's what United
If you
Airlines
want,
said. They said
I'm
half.
so confident.
They
Read
said
the
half.
executive order out loud.
We're talking about United
right
Airlines.
now
We're not talking about the
in front of
executive order.
everybody.
Again, they
All right,
said
yeah,
half
Max,
of all their
you got
new
cooked.
hires.
You got cooked.
Again,
Hey, thank you.
we have clarity, and the clarity is very simple. We want a country based on content and merit. He wants a retribalization of America. Thank you.
My name's Layla, and I've recently watched 3 videos of yours, Best Top 10 Charlie Kirk Debate Moments of 2024,
Oh, no.
Students Enraged That I Say College is a Scam, and 10 Unforgettable Charlie Kirk Debates That Shook 2024. And I picked 3 different topics that I think are important to me, which comes down to immigration, affirmative action, and DEI, and college is a scam. But the one I want to talk to you about the most is affirmative action and DEI. And in these videos, you have said, quote for quote, white males have high test scores, white males shouldn't have to be penalized. You did acknowledge and say that people of color come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds that do not prioritize education much. But instead of making a suggestion on how to help those communities and continue to build those communities up, you continue to say that our institutions are becoming less excellent. And I'm confused as to what your definition of excellence is. Is that because white males aren't necessarily, in your opinion, getting accepted as in a higher rate, even though they technically are, because 41% of college admitted students are of the white race?
It should be higher than that, yeah.
Based on what? Where are you getting the statistics? I just want to understand.
It's a good question. The Supreme Court did a whole case on this, and it ruled against affirmative action, and we saw the books of Harvard. So
I don't want to cut you off. May I know for future reference, so I can understand where you're coming from and get more context, could I know the Supreme Court case?
Yeah, so the name, 2.5 years ago, I think it was something out of California. Someone look it up. You could use Grok or ChatGPT.
If somebody could please look that up for me. Thank you.
So we saw the data out of Harvard. Harvard was the test case, and effectively approximating, but a white male had to get about a 30% higher test score to even be considered than an equivalent black student.
And when was this?
Over 30
started?
years. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So basically, for a black student, they could do 30% worse on their standardized scores than an equivalent white student.
And you don't think that has any outside factors to do with it?
Well, that's not the point. The point is whether or not.
But how is that not the point?
Because I don't believe we should accommodate based on outside factors. You do.
Well, I do, because I believe in progression. And I feel like you have stated in multiple of your videos, which I do have a quote.
No, fair enough. I'm just making sure we understand we disagree.
For sure.
I don't think we should change the rules of the game to accommodate.
What were the rules of the game?
Well, the rules of the game are that you should be treated fairly and equally, right?
For sure.
That's an American principle.
And I agree with that completely.
Got it. So, therefore, a white male should not be treated differently than a black male.
But when you come from a different...
Doesn't matter.
But the
equal treatment or not. It's not whether or not you were said mean things when you grew up or whether your dad was a gangbanger. Doesn't matter.
Well, I'm not saying that's not the outside factors I'm talking about.
It doesn't matter what the outside factors are.
But can I explain where I'm coming from?
But understand, I'm going to finish and I'll let you talk.
Okay, of course.
Equal treatment is regardless of any sort of sob story you could put on before it. Equal treatment. Test score, test score.
And I completely agree with that. But I also come from a predominantly white town, so I understand what you're trying to say. In my district, we have so much funding, and I live in the Florida Keys, so there's a lot of funding that comes to my school, and you can drive 30 miles north and you end up in Homestead, where they have a fraction of the funding that we have, and they don't have as much of the same testing instructors and people to help them, and have as much of the same outside resources. And then you can keep going another 30 miles and you end up in Miami, where all the private schools are, and they get even more funding than where I come from. Obviously I ended up where I am today because I continue to push through, and I didn't let any outside factors affect me. But at the end of the day, I kept going, and some people don't have that same ability, and I also
it doesn't. Again, first of all, in Florida, every public school gets the same amount of money. Okay, there's an equal funding across the board.
But you also get donations from the people in your
community.
Fair
enough, but Florida has.
And I know for a fact that my community gets many donations.
Florida has the most. You could use equitable funding structure of any school, and has universal school choice, basically. So that's number one. Number two, explain to me why, when we're admitting people for a job, should it just be what's on that piece of paper, or should race play into the factor?
So I know that your argument is mediocrity. I forgot. I don't
Mediocrity?
Really. Okay, yeah, and I know that, and I also believe in quotas as well, but I don't think that it should be one and one, but they should go hand in hand. Because at the end of the day, if I have just as good as a resume as somebody next to me, I wanna understand where you're getting that jobs are just taking people because they're a woman, because they are black. I just want to see. And I understand what you're trying to say because of course, with affirmative action and DEI, that does give them an upper hand. But where does it say that you take somebody just because of that color?
All over the place. Capitol Street Partners back in the summer of 2022 said that they will not hire white men for internships. That's one example of thousands I could give.
But because of how many people are in there, how many people in position? No, because
they wanted to be. Again, that's irrelevant. It does not matter if you have an internship and everyone is a white man. If they're all qualified, that's great. It doesn't matter if they're all Asian or all black. It should be what merit qualification gets the people into that position.
And of course, but if this school only wanted white people to attend.
No, good, excellent qualified people. And if they end up majority white, who cares? Why does that matter?
I don't think that matters. I'm saying that affirmative action.
No, you are saying it matters.
I'm saying that, but I'm not saying for the white male or the black race or the Asian race or the Indian race, or understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that it works in favor for any race and any sex. It works, and it does 1,000%. And I don't understand where you're getting that information.
It is anti-white racism that was in the fiber of our laws that is now getting away thanks to President Donald Trump, where if you were a white man, especially to apply for internships, jobs, going to college, that it was significantly harder to get those jobs, to get into those practices, because there were quotas that made it easier for people of other skin colors with lower standards to be able to get those positions. We agree there's only so many slots in a college, right? There's only so many positions in an internship. It's a limited supply.
I completely agree.
It is scarcity. So when you have a scarce resource, you have to decide how you're going to divvy up that scarce resource.
For sure.
In a DEI model, they're going to say, okay, we're not going to do any more than 30% white, and then we'll do 15%. And so you kind of come up with these quotas. Therefore, they end up saying, well, what happens if the 15% black is not qualified? They don't care, which ends up happening far too often. Or what happens if the...
Can you give me examples of cases?
Yeah, air traffic control is actually a really good example. We now have all the documents that show that we went on a hiring spree to have more black air traffic controllers. There's a huge lawsuit about this, 15, 16, 17, where the standards for air traffic control have dropped so dramatically, and you're kind of seeing some of the effects of that potentially. And again, it's in almost every single corporate practice, every single college institution. But it just kind of comes down to more of a moral argument that I have, which is that if you have something based on merit, I don't care if it's all black, all Asian, all white. It's an excellent group is what I want, not a diverse group. I care about excellence, not diversity. Because I do not believe diversity is a strength. I believe unity is a strength. I believe the pursuit of higher purposes is a strength. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do understand where you're coming from. I feel like I do agree with some of the things that you did just say, and I may have to do some more research on the things that you said before, but I guess we can agree to disagree for the time being. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Just for context,
Choose from thousands of realistic voices to use in your content. Change the way you record podcasts, voiceovers, and branded content with the #1 AI.
I'm open to learning and being informed, but I do believe we have a disagreement when it comes to DEI. You think it stands for didn't earn it. Essentially that colleges are dropping the bar, but I think they're just opening the door. So for example, a recent Harvard analysis by Top Economics found that students from the wealthiest 1% of families are 13 times more likely to score in the 1300 plus range for the SAT than students from the poorest families. And I don't think that's because rich kids are 13 times smarter, but it's because they have access to better schools, private tutors, test prep, everything, right? And according to the University of California, they show that family background accounts for 40% of the variance in SAT/ACT scores among UC applicants. I would also like to mention that the Diversity in Society's Leaders, the Casual Effects of Admissions at Highly Selective Private Colleges, a study shown by the National Bureau of Economic Research, that I think that if you think it's based on race, at times I think it's based on wealth. So legacy applicants, children of donors, and recruited athletes were significantly more likely to be admitted than other students with the same academic credentials. So yeah, elite schools like Harvard, legacy students are about 5 to 6 times more likely to be admitted than non-legacy students with similar SAT scores. Roughly 43% of white students admitted to Harvard from 2000 to 2015 fell into one of the 4 categories, right? Legacy, athletes, dean's interest list, or children of faculty or staff. 3/4 of these ALDC admits, 75%, would not have been admitted if evaluated only on academic credentials. My question is, I guess, do you believe that DEI could possibly not stand for diversity, equity, and didn't earn it, but can stand for actual diversity, that diversity of abilities? When you go into a job or to a school, they don't just ask for your SAT score. They ask what kind of clubs you were into. They ask you to submit an essay. They are a holistic academic review. So why do you think it means didn't earn it? If maybe they got a less SAT score, but them as a person are just more well-rounded than the person who had all these tutors but did nothing outside of it.
What yeah. Tell me about, do you know anything about the Students for Fair Admission case, the Supreme Court case at Harvard?
I would love to hear about it.
Yeah, so basically at Harvard, Asian and white students, they basically got 200 to 400 points knocked off of their score versus black and Hispanic students. So it was disenfranchising white and Asian students. So if you support DEI, let's say you're in charge. Do you think that we should have all test scores be weighed the same? Or do you think that certain ethnic groups should get certain points because of their race?
I believe that we should acknowledge the fact that certain students have a different starting point, and I would love to give everybody the opportunity to
So
get
how
into
many
school.
points should a black student get over a white student in admissions?
I think that SAT scores and points shouldn't be the only thing referenced.
But you have to answer the question, because the status quo...
But it's not that black and white.
It is. So it is, because that's why affirmative action was struck down by the Supreme
But
Court.
we're not talking about affirmative action. We're talking about DEI.
DEI is an outgrowth. Affirmative action is an outgrowth of DEI and vice versa. But let me give you another example of DEI. Do you think if I say to a group, let's say of Hispanic and black people, if I say you people, is that a microaggression?
Say that again. I'm so sorry.
If I was talking to a group of Hispanic or black people and I happen to say you people, is that a microaggression?
I would think so, yes.
Okay, I think that's insane.
Why?
Because it's not a microaggression or racism to call any group of people you people. That's DEI in practice. So you guys might know about the group of clowns in the circus group of the Dean on F America thing. They fell apart in 1 week because one black woman called Dean and Parker racist because they were associated with a woman who called a group of black women you people, and they said you did not recognize microaggression. That's DEI in practice, where you could lose your entire job and your career for one misstatement. And you just showed it to me. Like, you think that's a microaggression to say you people to a group of Hispanic and black people? We should not be policing the speech of people. Instead, we should be caring about one thing, and that's merit and merit only when we put together our institutions.
But if you base it on meritocracy, like I said, you're initially bringing in wealthy people who have these tutors but aren't well-rounded.
So what? That doesn't mean anything. Yes, the degree of how good your parents are matter. Yes. If you have good parents, you get something that people with bad parents don't get. That's
Okay,
applicable beyond college.
But with the people who score higher, let's say they didn't do anything, they are less likely to be able to take on challenges than the people who... Why wouldn't it matter?
Because
Wouldn't,
inherently,
as an employer,
you are penalizing those with good parents. The only way you can make this work...
You're not penalizing
Yes, you are.
them. No, you're not excluding them.
Not true. It is the only way. We see this. In order to elevate equity, you must compromise excellence. And that's fine if that's your position, because there's only so many spots, there's only so many places, and if you have a lot of qualified people and you want to try to get not as qualified people, you have to prevent the qualified people and elevate the unqualified people. That's what the Students for Fair Admissions case showed us.
You're thinking that DEI is versus excellence. I think DEI is for excellence.
Got it. Show me one institution that got better the more it embraced DEI.
One institution that got better that embraced DEI.
That got smarter, more competitive, leaner, more productive, and that was better than it was 10 years ago. Are our airports more efficient? Are we landing planes better? Are our airlines better? Is our government better? Is our schools better? Is our universities better? Show me one example. Is our public health authorities better? Show me one institution that's embraced DEI that has become better, more excellent than it was 20 years ago. It doesn't exist. DEI will destroy an institution from within.
Let me ask you another question. When COVID happened, they removed the SAT scores, yet the graduation rates for Harvard were still the same. Do you think that because of... Sorry. With that being said, since ACT wasn't even considered, schools are accepting people with the potential to succeed, because once you get in, you're still going off the same merit as everybody else.
A lot of people drop out that are, the problem with Harvard is that they now have professors, the ton of them that are saying they have to retake courses and remedial courses because these kids should never be here in the first place. And they happen to be a lot of black and Hispanic kids that were let in strictly because of the color of their skin. So I guess my question is, do you care about the racial makeup of a college?
The racial makeup of a college?
Like if a college was all white or all Asian, would that bother you?
I think it would stop them from being able to see different perspectives and thus improve their systems and improve the quality of their operation.
But why is diversity only skin color? Can't a bunch of white people also disagree?
Well, think of it this way. If I like my mom went to the hospital or something, and let's say her English is good, but her Spanish isn't. Oh, her Spanish is good, but the English not so much, right? It would help that if a person who is Hispanic or knows Spanish would be the one helping her. She'd feel more comfortable with that person because she understands and relates.
Okay. You're in America. You should learn English. I don't know what to tell you, but...
No, she is...
Good. I'm not trying to be insensitive or cruel.
English, but
yeah,
she would rather be with a Hispanic nurse versus one that doesn't, so she could speak comfortably.
As an organization, you must prioritize something. We think that excellence should be we must have an uncompromising pursuit and commitment to excellence and not equity. And we believe the more that we embrace this kind of culture of mediocrity, excellence will slip. And again, I could go through, at the core, DEI wants a lot of things, including racial quotas. Mm-hmm. We don't believe in racial quotas. Our best institutions would fall apart with racial quotas. Mm-hmm. We want excellence quotas and the best and the ones that earned it to be able to get in those positions. Mm-hmm. Thank you for your good faith conversation.
Hi, Charlie.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hi. So my name is Paige, and this is my twin sister, IVF.
Wow.
Alex.
Okay.
We have two older sisters that are also IVF.
Okay.
So this is about IVF, of course. So I'm particularly neutral on the topic. I don't want to have like a forced opinion because like my entire family's kind of become a product of IVF.
Are you guys surrogacy too, or just IVF?
Just IVF.
Oh, just IVF.
Yeah, just IVF. But I watch your videos. And so I've noticed that in one of your videos, you do mention that you are okay with IVF, but you're morally against it. Is that true?
Yeah, it's a little bit deeper than that, but I have a lot of problems with IVF, albeit while acknowledging the fruit. I'm glad you're both alive.
Thank you.
And so that must be celebrated. So it's I'll explain the difficulty, but please continue.
Okay, my, part one of my question is just, as someone who was conceived through IVF, why should I also be morally against it?
Good question. Okay, so as a pro-lifer, first and foremost, we have to have an issue with the discarded fertilized eggs that happen during IVF. That's why you guys are twins. Yep. Is because during your creation process, if I can be provocatively blunt, you lost a lot of your siblings.
Yes.
Am I correct in saying that?
So for our older sisters, they had 6 embryos in their batch. 2 came out, of course, but for us, there were 3, and then 2 came out.
Yeah, and so that's my first problem, is that it definitionally is saying, like, we're going to discard life to get to life.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that. So
I do agree, but in a certain way, So in a certain way, those embryos, like, say they weren't going to become anyways, but at least we were trying because they were going to be raised in a house where we are pro-life and we really wanted to be able to have kids and cherish that. But by taking that loss, they were able to have at least us out of the 3. At least they could have the 1. So it's kind of, I don't know where I'm going with that.
I understand what you're saying. So there's a pro-life way to do IVF, which is only implant the eggs of which the children that you actually want to raise. And so, by the way, you have a lower likelihood of working because in your case, it would be maybe 2 or 3. For example, the way that the IVF doctor will sell it is like, look, here's 6 embryos. You'll be lucky if 1 or 2 implant to the uterine wall. Let's see what happens. Now, in certain cases, 4 implant to the uterine wall and you get quadruplets, right? Yeah. Which is what happens. I find that to be a little bit creepy, to be honest, that a doctor can kind of call shots on what life is going to live and not live. And I find that to be directly contradictory to my pro-life stances. Let me go to my second point, though, which makes it even more difficult. I think it's a human rights violation if there are millions of fertilized eggs just sitting in freezers right now. Those are human lives. If we're pro-life, we believe those are human lives, and they're just kind of in freezers right now. So I have a problem with that. But I don't deny the fruit of how amazing people can be a result of it. Third, though, and I think this is most important, there's a great book called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, which I encourage everyone to check out. In Brave New World, he hypothesized in the first chapter that there will be a day where human beings can be created without sex. And he wrote about in very vivid novel form what is wrong with that. So IVF is actually the 180 opposite of birth control. So birth control is sex without life. IVF is life without sex. So it's the exact opposite. So, and here's my final problem with IVF, and it's actually in a pro-IVF way. The people who do IVF are actually the most pro-life people because they want babies. Exactly. They're the last people that would walk into an abortion clinic. Exactly. So further complicating this very big issue. So would I want to make it illegal? No, but I have serious humane issues with that. I also think it's like the further Frankenstein monster kind of like we are going to control nature. Like we're resurrecting old species of dire wolves, like we're doing gene editing of CRISPR. I don't think we should play games with nature as if we are God Almighty. I think that's a terrible idea. I think that's how you get the worst civilizations. So all that to say, the last thing is, second to cancer, the worst thing a human being can suffer with mentally is infertility. It's a proven fact. It creates more depression, more anxiety. So there's no easy answer to that. So my advice to pro-life couples that want to do it, try to push back on the doctor and say, we're going to trust God, and we only want to implant the embryos that we would be comfortable raising. Do not act as if it's like a roulette table. Like, look, we're going to lose some of them, and I know we're not going to raise all those kids. If you fertilize the egg and then it doesn't attach to the wall with the full intent of raising those kids, that's more morally justifiable, other than we're going to throw 6 ones up against the wall and see which ones stick. That one I find to be bordering on eugenics. I know that sounds to be a provocative statement, but it is. Basically, we're going to kill 5 to let 1 live. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And albeit, you guys are going to have a great life because of IVF, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I do have another, just like one more. What would it take for you kind of like answered it, but what would it take for you to be like borderline morally okay with IVF?
Yeah,
if we are able to...
I think I've articulated it. It would largely invalidate the IVF. And what I've just articulated would make the IVF outcomes go down dramatically. Because the reason why IVF outcomes are able to be successful is that each round of IVF, if it does not attach to the uterine wall, the doctor says, well, we did 6, let's do 10. And let's do 15. Let's do 25. Now that's extreme, but it does happen where they want a baby so badly, they're just going to throw everything they possibly can. So what ends up happening is then they give the mom a progesterone, which then basically makes the uterine wall, quote unquote, sticky during her time of ovulation, which then can make the baby then attach to the uterine wall. No easy answer. I think, so last final point. Infertility, I think, is a symptom. It is not in itself a sickness. Infertility, I think, is a symptom of terrible diet, of genetic issues that we're not able to necessarily understand. And in my opinion, I think there are toxins that are poisoning us, that are artificially lowering testosterone rates. And young ladies, I'm going to get so much hate for this. If you never want to deal with infertility, be very careful taking the pill. The pill has a lot more downsides than they will ever tell you. Be very careful. As a man, I know I'm not allowed to say that. But there's a lot of downsides to the pill. And am I allowed to say it? Thank you.
Yes, you are. Yes,
because
sir.
The pill will dramatically increase your likelihood of going to an IVF industry clinic. Do you want to know the even more sinister take? If I was just caring about profit, I would try to get a bunch of 14-year-old girls on a birth control pill to addict them as an annuity, have them not want to have kids till their 30s, then they're infertile, then they have to come to me and buy IVF services. That's only if you'd want to make a bunch of money, though. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you both.
Hi, Charlie. Thank you so much for being here. Good. So I wanted to speak on behalf of young women. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm an entrepreneur, business owner. I've come out of homelessness, overdose, addiction, all those kinds of things. Wow. And now being here and also witnessing what's happening in our communities for people that are going through sexual assault, trafficking, free things are being handed out to people. What are things that we can do as the young generation to be able to promote and help people understand that people that are coming across that are illegal, getting their ability to get free housing and get all this free stuff is not actually beneficial for our generation. It's actually hurting us even more.
Boy, yeah, we're being invaded on a daily basis. It needs to be repeated. It's 15,000 people a day that are coming across the border that we know of. It is worse than anyone can imagine or comprehend. Look, let's just take one element of it. I mean, a fraction of that number are people that are basically in modern day slavery. And we're lectured all the time that slavery was the worst thing in the 1800s, and it was. It's evil. Where's the outrage for modern day slavery happening on the southern border? It is indecipherable when you have an 8-year-old that's coming from Honduras that is purchased by a cartel, and they're trafficked into this country either for sex or labor reasons, and they're legitimately purchased and transacted. I don't see a lot of protests on campus about that. I see a lot of protests against Israel, but I don't see a lot of anger against the modern day slave trade happening on the southern border. It is one of the great social crimes of our time, and complete silence from the media and from the activist class.
Absolutely. So would you say that based on college being a scam and anybody here that wants to, and I'm a full testament of this, you can and go be anything that you would like to be in this country, like Charlie was talking about, with liberty, because you don't just get to come out of homelessness and getting out of the military and being stuck in a country in the middle of COVID and not knowing what to do with yourself, but then being able to grow your own business and actually being successful. That can only happen here in America. And so for anybody that, for Charlie, for you, what would you say for advice that you would give yourself if you were someone who wanted to start a business but didn't know where to start?
Start a business. It depends on what it is, but look, I think we need more entrepreneurs and more business owners in this country, to be honest. Find a problem that people have. So here's the best way to get rich. It's super simple. Find something that someone's complaining about all the time and then solve their problem. That's how you get rich.
Absolutely.
Because people are willing to pay money to have their problem solved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I went back to school later on in life. Here's my issue. My second semester, I'm carrying an A average, and my teacher writes me an email and asks me what my pronouns were. I'm first year Gen X. I don't have a pronoun. Let me tell you what I do have. I have a noun, and it's my name. And that's the only English language I can actually say I have. But I was cool, and I was really kind. Excuse my language, but y'all are adults here, right? Okay, good. So, excuse my language, but you know what? I am pissed off because when I said to her, I'm sorry, I don't claim a pronoun, I got failed. I got failed in 3 of her courses. And my grade point average went from a 4.0 down to a 2.5 because I didn't carry a pronoun. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I have an incredible grade point average. I'm a smart woman. I've been working in the workforce for 40 years, and my generation, and if y'all don't understand, invented the internet, for Christ's sakes, and we're not stupid. All right? And yet, you're going to fail me for my pronouns. So my questions are this. As a student, if I don't want to claim this woke ideology, how do I advance and get my degree in something I love and really want to do and would be really good at without being failed unless I fall into their agenda? Tell me how to fix this.
Yeah, so first, thank you for your blunt nature. It's very refreshing. So, yes, there is no easy answer. Number one, there's strength in numbers. Confronting professors or administrators with you plus 10 or 30 other people is the first way to do it. You should not go to appeal by yourself. You should go with the Turning Point chapter and ask for a remedy with many people alongside of you. Number two, though, and I'm just going to be as blunt as possible, as you were, I really don't think grades matter that much in the world. I know they matter to you for advancement. My advice to people is that your character and your integrity and standing for what is right matters a lot more than pandering to some sort of an agenda. And I know you agree with that.
Well, the problem is that you lose your funding. Okay, the minute your grades hit below C, you lose all your grants
I hear
and
you.
all your funding that's free. So all these college kids that are getting these Pell Grants get them pulled.
No, I'm not diminishing that. So they're holding your career hostage over that money. I still, that's why I think college is a scam. I still think you should not comply to their tyrannical woke orthodoxy. You should fight for it. You should fight on it. But to be perfectly honest, I think that it destroys your soul every time that you comply with their nonsense. But God bless you, and thank you for being a lifelong learner. Thank you.
Quer assistir seus vídeos sem anúncios? Conheça a Super Adblock para YouTube.
In the case of immigration, if you hard restrict it and make it harder to get in, the only